East Ohio. Bill, you have referred to the movie business as a manufacturing business. Now, a lot of people will find that peculiar because, I had the Ambassador Crawford here many times, and he employs 7,000 people in the manufacturing business all over the world. So the movie business, you say, has relevance to manufacturing. Would you explain?
Yeah, it's the new manufacturing. So, we have a lot of manufacturing going away these days. And, this is a growing industry. It's exponentially growing. And so we're coming out of COVID. There was very little content being produced last year, and now the demand is just insane. It's incredibly an explosion of content creation. So you have an industry that's growing, a demand that's growing, and we need to populate these jobs with people. And so a lot of the connotation has always been, well, it's kind of like, what is it, theater kids, or is it a home movie kind of thing?
Yeah.
We don't make movies in Ohio. Well, we do. We make the same movies. It's the same movies, it's the same salaries. If you go to LA, if you go to New York, you're going to get paid the same as you would get paid on a movie working in Ohio.
So it's better to work in Ohio because the cost of living is less.
Exactly. So, we have these movies coming here, but you don't need to be a theater kid to work on a movie. It is the new manufacturing. So with pretty minimal training, you can get one of these jobs.
Now, what kind of jobs? You'd have truck drivers, you'd have electricians. I imagine a lot of electricians, right?
Agreed. Yeah, grips, electricians, camera
carpenters.
people. Carpenters. That's a huge component of what we do. On the Netflix movie right now, 40% of the sets are built on a stage. So that's carpentry heavy. There's hundreds of people just doing that. Painters, craft service, food, catering. I mean, it's a really wide-ranging need for all sorts of skill sets.
Now, do changes to the script happen on site sometimes?
Sure. Yeah.
So you have writers also.
Writers, yeah. And that typically would get done out of LA, but not necessarily. I mean, there are independent movies that are filmed right here in Northeast Ohio. There are local filmmakers, local directors directing movies. So it's a wide range of jobs.
Camera people?
Absolutely, yeah. Local camera, and think about vendors. Vendors are a big part of what we do too. So we're buying all this stuff locally. We're renting all this stuff locally. Trucks are rented locally. Cars are rented locally. Hotels are used, for out of town crew members. We're buying food at supermarkets and grocery stores and local caterers. All of this is, a local, pumping all this economic investment back into the local economy.
You talked about New Jersey at one time being the center of the movie industry. Talk about that. What happened there?
Sure. So when it was in its infancy, in 1908, movie production was made in New Jersey. So the motion picture camera was invented by the Edison Company, Thomas Edison. And because his company was there, and that's where they made the cameras, well, that's where the studios were. So in 1908, a typical production was only minutes long, and there was no feature films, there was no stars, there was no actors. It was basically hired hands that you didn't know the name of, and you would go to a Nickelodeon, and you'd spend your nickel for an hour's worth of movies, but it wouldn't be all one movie. It would be all different types of movies.
This was even before the silent movies, wasn't it?
Well, they were silent movies, but before feature films. So in 1908, that's the state of the movie business in America. And by 1912, you had Carl Laemmle, who was the creator of Universal Pictures, the predecessor of Universal Pictures, decided, well, wait a second, we have these stars here. Why don't we market? He was a marketing guy, and he made all his money, in marketing. And so he decided to go into the movie business and say, all right, I'm going to take these actors and I'm going to market them as stars. And all of a sudden, you had a movie business like we know today. So you had feature-length films being marketed and star power being the driving force behind movie and production. And the content demand went up exponentially. So you had 8,000 movie theaters roughly, at around that time, and then a few years later you had 14,000. So the change in the way things were done increased the amount of output and the demand for the movie production back then. So I draw a correlation between that and now, and you have the streaming wars driving up the demand for all this content creation, and content is always king. So whatever shakes out with the streaming wars, content is going to drive this, and you have twice as many productions that you used to have just a few years ago. So we should take advantage of that. Right now is the time to take advantage of that, and that's why it's so important to be competitive in this industry, because it's a growing industry. It's manufacturing. It's the new manufacturing. It's not. You don't have to be an artist to do this. It's manufacturing.
Now, I've heard you say that you are the poster child for the reasons that tax incentives work.
Yeah, I just spent the last 13 years here working in productions in a six-figure salary, union benefits. I mean, it's a freelance business, but it's a very, very good job. It's a job that's growing. It's a proof that this kind of thing works.
It is a real career.
It really is.
And so any young person that's listening to us right now, how would they get into this business? What do they do?
Well, you can go to Cleveland Film.
Do you need a master's degree or a PhD?
Absolutely not, no. You need some training. It helps to be on your first movie set with some basic skills to know what you're doing. You can go to clevelandfilm.com for ways to get into the film business. There's Film Skills, which is a low-cost program, online-based, taught by industry professionals that tell you how it's done. Cleveland State has a really excellent film program. Tri-C has an excellent film program. Come to us, reach out to us, and we'll facilitate ways to get into the movie business.
I think I'll make a movie. Hey, do you think, Colleen?
Yes,
Do
Jerry?
you think we should make a movie here some Sunday morning?
Sure, we can make a movie. That'd be great. Let's make a movie about the Jerry Quinn Show, the last
We'll
all
have
these
to. We'll have
years.
to create some scandals to do that because nobody's
sure.
going to watch it if
Right.
it's just.
Well,
watching
we're
us
making
and
one
just-
right now, Jerry.
Right, we
Huh?
can do that, yes.
We're making one right now.
Oh, okay. Very good. Actually, JC is putting this on what?
We'll put it on YouTube.
It's going to be out on YouTube. And Colleen is doing some 10:29 here on the Irish Show. It's moving along pretty quick. Just, I know you were on with me before, but it's been a while. Where did you get started? Or where did this bug get in your head?
I wanted to be Steven Spielberg.
Oh, you did. You're almost there.
Hardly. I was a movie buff as a kid, and so I went to business school, but we were kind of the bug was still itching. So I had a film minor, and right out of college and onto my first movie set. And you think going into an interview, I went into my first interview, you wear a suit in an interview. So I wore a suit to this interview after sending out it must have been 200 resumes, and I only got one call back. And so I walked into the interview in this back alleyway, kind of a shady place, and I sit down. He's like, "You'll do." Like I haven't answered any questions yet. No, it's fine. You're good. Take these cones, traffic cones, take them down to set. They were filming already. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I found myself marching down the street in Long Island City, Queens, through back alleys, wearing a suit, carrying some traffic cones. Worked all night. It was the start of a career, I guess.
You didn't get discouraged then? Said, no, there's got to be more to it than this, right?
Yeah, you'd think I would. I don't know.
Did
but,
Spielberg start this way?
No, I doubt it. Yeah, so I kind of fell into the locations biz. So the thing I loved about locations is it melds the creative with the logistical side of the movie business. So everybody thinks of motion pictures as an art, and it is, but there's a even bigger portion of it that no one ever sees, and that's the business side, the logistics, the contracts, the insurance, just massive amount of logistics goes into every movie production. There's hundreds of people working on it, a circus of trucks, a caravan of trucks, and where do you park the trucks, and where does everybody go to the bathroom, and where do you eat lunch, and just convincing people to have a circus come to their house. So it's a big production. So I really enjoyed the logistical challenge, problem solving that went into it, and the creativity that went into finding an evil lair. I mean, you can't just Google evil lairs. So when the script calls for an evil lair, you got to figure it out, and I love that challenge.
I think when most people watch television and they're watching a movie, or especially when you're sitting in a theater, does anybody think about the location at all? They see the scene, they see the person. I imagine the folks, and we'd say the explosions. But all that, that's your job,
Sure.
to make sure that all this happens.
Yeah, I mean, it's half the movie, and that's the joy of it, you know, the creative input that goes into it.
Now, when you get called to a movie, does the director or the producer, probably the director, does he give you the script and say, read this?
Yeah, so I'm one of the first people on the movie. So the director and producer and production designer are all hired first, and then I come on to assist them in finding everything. So I take the script, I break it down, I find multiple options for each scene in the movie, and I
Now,
collaborate.
listen, how long would the script be? How many pages do these usually be?
Every movie's different, so anywhere from 100 pages.
The
to
longest day
130.
could be the longest movie.
It could, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's.
But you got to read it all.
Yeah, every movie's different though, and you know, it's kind of there's a science to it. We break down the script in a certain way to give us the data that we need to go out and efficiently put everything together like a puzzle.
Do the script writers, when they're doing the script, would say there's a book made about a lot of movies? You have a book first, and then they write the script for the movie?
I mean, that's when you look at the Academy Awards. There's best adapted screenplay and there's best screenplay, right? It's two different categories. So yes, there's books that are adapted for the screen, and then there's just original content. So it can go either way.
So when the script writer is writing this, is he thinking, is something going through his mind like, I want this type of a scene for this? Is he thinking
Yeah,
that at all?
there's certain amounts of, and every script is different, but there's certain levels of description that goes into every script as well. So it depends on the screenwriter.
Did you ever get a script and read it and say, oh, this is pure crap?
All the time.
This
and it's, you know,
this will never sell, right?
No.
yeah, and it's true, and that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be bad. I mean, honestly, there's bad scripts that are made into good movies, and vice versa. I've read so many, and it's usually the opposite way, where you read an amazing script, and you're like, oh my God, this is going to be an Academy Award, no doubt, and the movie gets made, and there's so many components that goes into it, and if you're lacking in even just one component, it might turn it into a bad movie, and unfortunately, you know, it's so hard to make great movies, and that's why we celebrate it so much when it happens, when it's like that gold, that magic that happens when everything comes together right.
And it could be just one thing
Yeah,
would
good.
sink the movie, yeah?
Yeah, totally.
Not necessarily the script, it could be maybe even the scenes.
Anything, acting, directing, production design, anything could make for a bad movie.
You've met a lot of people in the industry. Does anybody stand out? People with names that we know. Is there anyone that stands out as being a great person in your opinion?
Yes, Jerry Orbach was a wonderful, wonderful human.
He was
being.
on Law and Order?
Law and Order, yeah. I worked on Law and Order for 4 seasons.
With him?
Well, one season with him because he left at the end of my first season there, and you know, nobody knew it at the time, but he had cancer.
What was so exceptional about him?
He was just humble and very engaging and polite and nice person. You know, he would always, no matter how miserable it was outside, if we were outside and there was fans waiting, he would engage with all of them and with a smile all the time. And to the point where I was scouting once for a mansion, and I was tasked with finding a grandiose mansion in Manhattan. And so I went to a block on Sutton Place. It's a very short block in Manhattan. It's where, if you look at Woody Allen's movie Manhattan, a very famous movie, the poster for Manhattan was shot on this 1 block long block of people sitting on the park bench looking at the Manhattan Bridge, the 59th Street Bridge. Anyway, so I knocked on this door, grandiose mansion, and it happened to be Sunday because we needed this place pretty quick. So I was working on a Sunday, and the gentleman opens the door and says, hi, you know, and I give the spiel, and he's like, oh, Law and Order. Is Jerry Orbach on that? And I'm like, yes, yeah, Jerry Orbach is our star. It's like, well, you know, I wouldn't let you in, but I love Jerry Orbach. So he lets me into the house, and he introduces himself to me, and he says, what's your name? And I say, I'm Bill Garvey. He says, oh, I'm Bill too, Bill Rockefeller. And so he proceeds to take me around the house, and if not for Jerry Orbach, I would not be scouting the Rockefeller.
Now, the other
Yeah.
side of the coin,
Great.
have you met anybody that was just a perfect jerk? Or is there a lot of those?
Yeah, there's plenty, but I'm not going to say.
Oh, no, I wouldn't expect
But
you.
I will say this, so, going back to Jerry, so everybody knew he was leaving the show at the end of this first season. And so at our wrap party, he always got up and sung a ditty at the end of every season, incorporating all the stuff that had happened over the course of the season.
Creative guy.
Very creative, because he got his start on Broadway, and he was in The Fantastics, which is the longest running Broadway or off-Broadway show of all time. So he was, every bit, a singer and dancer, and he got up and did this ditty, and he did his final ditty, incorporating everything that happened on over the course of the season, and everybody was just tears down the face. I looked over at Fred Thompson, who was our district attorney on the show at the time, the former senator, and tears streaming down his face because everybody knew he was, this was the last time we'd see him, and he was beloved. He really was beloved.
Did you ever meet Robert De Niro?
I did. And you know the story. You're leading me.
No, I'm not. But he doesn't say, I won't ask you too much about it, but he doesn't seem like a very nice person. He swears a lot, curses a lot, swears a lot.
Well, he didn't swear at me, but the reason that you've heard the story from me is I was on one of my first shows, and it was a movie called Copland. It was a Sylvester Stallone movie. And I'm on my first day on that movie, and we were shooting at One Police Plaza, which is a big veranda in front of a tall building in Manhattan. And as is the case for your first job, you do traffic control. So we were locking off this section of this plaza where we were going to film, and I stopped these two gentlemen that were about to walk up to our set. And like, sorry, sir, you can't come here. It's closed. And he's like, it's okay, son. I'm with the production. And he walks through, and my other production assistant buddy looks over to me. He's like, do you know who that was? I'm like, no. That's De Niro. What are you doing? In my defense, though, he had a full mustache and gray beard. He had been dyeing his hair up until then, and it was full gray and did not look like every other iteration of Robert De Niro I'd ever seen.
All right, when we come back, I'm going to talk more to you about some of your adventures around Northern Ohio, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
But when Bill, ever since the day he was born, his dad and I were friends since we were 13 years old. We went to high school together. He came to New York. I came to Cleveland. The friendship endured all through these years. And I always said he's my best friend in the entire world. And he used to say the same to me. He paid me the greatest compliment one time, Bill. He said, you had somebody come into your house, and he said, come on into New York. He says, oh, John, I said, I can't, I don't want to be interfering with your family. He says, Jerry, you are my family. You're as much my family as any of my brothers and anyone else. And I thought that was the greatest compliment, because that was him.
Oh, yeah.
He was just a wonderful person. Right. And I miss my conversations with him. He's gone through July in 2017? 18. And I think we talked every day on the phone, and I sure miss those conversations an awful lot. Thank God your mom lives in Great Neck, New York. She's listening, I hope, this morning.
I hope so too.
And like you referenced in that little movie clip, they were both school teachers.
They were.
So you have great respect for the school teaching profession. I know
yeah,
that.
in fact, Shaka, the director of Judas, the movie that won the Location Manager Guild Award, his parents, his mom was a teacher, and Sam Lysenko, the production designer, his mom was also a teacher. So we're all the sons of teachers, and maybe that played a part in our success later on in life.
Yeah. Talk to me about Cleveland. I know it was a big move for you, leaving Manhattan, the center of the world, pretty much, and moving to Rocky River. Well, Rocky River could be the center of the West Side, maybe, but not the center of the world.
I am the biggest proponent of Ohio. Honestly, I
know
scream
you
it from
are.
the mountaintops. Everybody come move here. It's a wonderful place to
You
raise
you love it here, don't
Oh,
you?
yeah, I do.
But of course, it was made a lot easier for you by that wonderful woman you married from,
Yes, my
from
wife, Carol.
Cleveland,
Yes,
Carol.
exactly,
Yeah.
yes.
And your daughter Sarah.
Yes.
Yeah. Tell me about working in Cleveland, some of the interesting places, because in my conversations with you, you always mention some place that I've never heard of, and I've lived here a lot longer than you have.
So I've been working on movies for 26 years. I've worked in 8 different states. I've worked in every single situation you can imagine. And the coolest, the most amazing locations I've found are right here in Ohio. And it kind of starts with the Avengers. So that kind of started the onslaught of movies coming to Ohio. And to start off the bat, the first scene in that movie is the most amazing location I've ever seen in my life, and that's the NASA Plumbrook facility in Sandusky. So the history of that is it was built in the 60s as a nuclear power plant and never commissioned, so they never started using it as such, and they repurposed it to test rocket fuselages. And so the opening scene in The Avengers is the chamber where they test rocket fuselages. It's this giant 200-foot tall chamber that they built an outer chamber of 8-inch thick aluminum, where they bring all the oxygen out of the chamber, and they test the stages of the rocket to make sure that they operate properly when they go into space. It's fascinating there. It also has the loudest room in the world. There's another chamber where they bombard the fuselages with sound, and the subwoofers, the woofers that they have there bombarding it with sound are 100 feet tall.
Now, that was a huge movie. What other big ones? Was Spider-Man, was that done here?
Spider-Man 3, Captain America Winter Soldier, Fast and Furious, Hillbilly Elegy was filmed in Ohio more recently, Judas, as I mentioned. So there's a lot of movies. It's a steady flow of movies.
And there's some big ones coming up, isn't there?
There are, yeah. I can't say what it is, but there's a big one that's coming in.
Is it Netflix?
No, it's Universal.
Universal. How about other interesting places in the general area? I know you went to Pennsylvania.
I did.
And you went into the coal mines or whatever, into the mountains.
Yeah, it was a limestone mine for U.S. Steel. So it was a decommissioned mine in about an hour east of Pittsburgh, and that also appears in the Avengers in the same sequence. So the second scene in the movie is this mine where the mine is collapsing as they escape the mine. They're driving like banshees out of the mine. And it's 200 miles of just branches. It looks like a tree of mine where you can drive a truck into it. It's so cool.
I'm moving away from Ohio again. You said you went to an insane asylum in Massachusetts. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I worked on a movie called Shutter Island. It was a Martin Scorsese movie starring Leo DiCaprio. And I spent about 4 months trekking through Massachusetts looking at all the abandoned insane asylums before I found the one that ended up in the movie.
You should have gone to Washington to the Congress.
But they for some reason every insane asylum seemed like it ended up in Massachusetts. So the one we ended up using was in 200 acre. I mean, it was awful conditions. I can't even imagine living in this place, but it had been abandoned for 30 years at the time, and it was a 200-acre campus. When people died there, they got buried in unmarked graves, like numbered graves with no date, no name. All grown over. We kind of stumbled on it. We didn't even know it was there, and then they brought us into one building, and again, it had been abandoned for 30 years. So this was a government person who really didn't go there so much, who had the big key ring with all these different keys that he had to try out on every lock to get us in. And we get into one building, and it was the hospital, and we go into a room that was the lobotomy operating room. So it had these giant 50s era probes, and kind of that green, tiled green that you saw in hospitals of the time, and the straps on the operating table, and straitjackets and cobwebs, kind of shrouded in cobwebs on the walls. And he brought us into a basement in another building where it was kind of this big creaky wrought iron door, and he opens the door, and it's this cavernous space where they stored all the hat boxes and steamer trunks.
Did they use any of this stuff in the movie? Any of these scenes?
Not a one. No.
Not one.
We didn't shoot in these places. These were frankly, if I don't believe in ghosts, but if there's anything that's haunted, that's haunted. But we ended up filming on the campus. We filmed in a couple of the buildings. The cafeteria scene in that movie is on site. But you don't need much method acting to get into your role when you're in that place.
How about the Superior Viaduct here in Cleveland?
Yeah, another one. So Evil Air. We were talking about Evil Airs back back before, and that was our Evil Air in Avengers. So, you know, again, it's about creativity. That's what I love, the challenge. So that was something that and you know, that was built in the 50s, 30s. I'm not sure.
Probably the 30s.
Yeah.
Probably.
But you know, there's elements still there of the
Well, there was
former.
the train station.
Yeah, it's
and
a train
so-
station right underneath the
Yeah,
Detroit
and it
Superior
was,
Bridge.
and it was actually World War II and World War I, all the trains came into Tower City,
Right.
and then it turned into the subways.
Right.
There was
or
a
not
deck
sub-
under
not
the bridge,
subways,
right?
the
Yeah.
deck under the bridge.
It's still there.
Or the streetcars. I'm sorry, the streetcars. We
Yeah.
don't have subways here. So thank you, but yeah, it's
There
still
was,
there.
I remember reading something about a
Mhm.
tragedy back in the 20s where a streetcar ran off the end of the track and it ended up in the Cuyahoga River.
Oh.
With the people on it.
Really?
I read that story.
Yeah,
this
it's a
morning.
true story.
Well, it's a true story.
True story.
You remember that, JC? You were there.
On the Superior side of the bridge, it kind of goes into water because it's all just flooded
Yes.
down
Yes.
in those places
Yes.
now.
Now, I see that you visited the Alcazar Hotel in
I
Cleveland
have,
Heights.
yeah. We filmed there too.
Well, what about that place?
Gorgeous.
I've never been in it.
Oh, it's kind of, you know, stuck in time. It's
Right.
beautiful.
Yeah.
It's you know, Art Deco. Yeah, I mean, back in the day, all the jazz singers and actors who came, you know,
George Gershwin,
yeah.
he stayed there.
And I don't remember who stayed there, but I mean, tons of them stayed there. That was the place to be.
Bob Hope, of course,
Of
he
course,
was
yeah,
born not
yeah.
too far from there,
Right,
right?
yeah.
And Jack Benny,
Oh, there you go.
Jack Benny, and who else was there? Bob Hope, of course, Cole Porter. They all stayed.
Bob Hope's brother lived in
Bob
Cleveland
Hope, he
Heights.
was,
His
from
his
Cleveland
brother,
Heights,
he used to come in and visit his brother. He used to come in and visit his brother all the time. And actually, the Alcazar, that's where my brother Timothy was married to
Oh.
Queenie. So yeah, that's a great old place.
It is,
Oh,
yeah, it is.
it's right around the corner from Nighttown, where
Yeah.
it used to be.
Yeah.
I guess they're opening it again.
Jerry, our good friend Kathy Rocco's listening to us. Remember, she was on the
Oh, yeah,
Ireland
Kathy,
tour,
yeah.
so Kathy's listening. So interesting, Bill, with the locations. But I think Cleveland is such a unique, again, just like you said, a hidden gem.
It really
because we, again, were in the top 20 cities at the turn of the century, and the Rockefellers
Yeah.
lived here, and so much.
Oh yeah, John D.
Yeah,
in
John-
East Cleveland.
right.
Did you
Our
ever
arts
see
and
his
culture.
old mansion or what's left? What used
I
to
came
be?
after it was demolished.
Or they demolished it completely.
Yeah, that's where
It's
Legacy
completely-
Village is.
Yeah.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
part of it.
Right.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Yeah, and when I bring directors here and I can say that, well, this beautiful location has never been on film before. And for
Oh,
instance,
yeah.
Judas and Black Messiah, we shot in all but one of our locations was brand new to the screen, and you never
What
say
movie
that.
was that?
Judas and the Black Messiah.
Oh, yeah.
And in New York, there's not a single place I can go to where it hasn't been a million times on screen.
Is
So
there-
that you know, filmmakers get a big kick out of it.
But do people recognize the city that you think they recognize in a movie? I don't think I would. Of course, then again, I don't go to a lot of movies.
Well, we're chameleons, right? So, you know, stories are written, you know, New York and all places, maybe not necessarily so much Cleveland, so we're a chameleon. We end up transforming into whatever city we need to be for motion pictures.
Oh, yeah, well,
That's what I love about Cleveland. Actually, right in Cleveland, we're the far west of the East Coast and the far east of the Midwest.
Yes.
Eddie, run that by me again when I'm sober.
Oh.
Okay. He's in the studio with me this morning. And Bill, your mom is listening, I'm sure. We didn't get an email from her though.
I'll get on that.
I know Nellie contacted her to make sure that she was listening this morning. So Bill, we have great hopes for what's to come in Cleveland. This award that
Mhm.
you got for this movie. Again, explain to our listeners what exactly this award is.
So the Location Manager Guild International is the guild that represents location managers, all the professionals that work on the locations portions of the movie across the world. And Judas and Black Messiah, that was filmed entirely in Cleveland, was nominated with four other movies this year and won. And so that shines a spotlight on what we do and the fact that, you know, movies made here are of exceptional quality. and shines a light on the hard work that goes into it and the caliber of movie makers here in Ohio.
So let's recap again the big advantage to this tax incentive, this 40 million tax incentive. It would be wonderful if we could get that up to maybe a couple of $100 million. It would
Yeah,
make a lot
so
more
to be competitive, and we haven't been competitive with other states that do this. So it's a $40 million cap right now. Other states that are doing this are 100 million or more.
Pennsylvania, for instance.
Pennsylvania, yeah.
Is what?
Kentucky. Pennsylvania, they just introduced a bill that would increase their incentive from 70 million to 125 million. Kentucky just increased their tax incentive to 100 million. Georgia has an uncapped incentive. New York has a $465 million incentive. Massachusetts and all these other states, Louisiana, they're all competing for this work because they want the economic benefit to the increase in movie production, the demand for content that this is generating. This is an industry that's growing, and we want to take part of that and take advantage of what we can offer here in Ohio to create jobs for people.
Why do so many movies gravitate to Cleveland rather than, we'd say, Columbus?
Well, crew base. So, and that's why workforce development is a very important component in this. To generate the crew base to populate these jobs on movies saves producers money. They want to hire local. They want to come here and have a crew base to fill out these jobs. So a really important part of what we do is facilitating and collaborating with local institutions to create the workforce that is necessary to make movies.
So the more tax money we get, the better chance we have to have continuous employment.
Correct, and it's a freelance business, so the mindset that, well, all right, one movie is made and then it's over and then you're not guaranteed for another job. Well, frankly, there's no guarantees in life, but I've made a living here in Ohio, in Northeast Ohio, for over a decade doing this, and it's a six-figure salary, it's a union salary. Union benefits, health care, full-time. So, it is freelance, but it's a very high-paying job.
And it keeps our youth at home.
It does, and we've had the brain drain. Everybody hears about the brain drain. Well, this is one way of keeping talent in Ohio and attracting new talent. I was an outsider, right? I wouldn't be here right now if not for this tax incentive. So you want more people, you want to generate more jobs just like this, and create the infrastructure that is necessary to compete in this business.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to me like 40 million is really adequate at all when you compare it with Georgia, for instance, and $2 billion.
And this money gets reinvested into the
It comes
economy.
right back.
Property tax, payroll tax, all the vendors that supply rentals, and we purchase expendables here, catering, hotels, all this stuff, it's spent here in Northeast Ohio.
Now, you've worked with the Russo brothers, haven't you?
I have, yes.
They're good guys, and they're really
Very
good
good guys.
Cleveland promoters, aren't
Big time Cleveland promoters. They want to bring jobs here,
they? And they have in the past, right?
and they have multiple
Now,
times.
what were the movies they
I
did?
worked on Captain America: Winter Soldier with them.
Oh,
they
that was
did,
there.
Yeah, and they did the last two Avenger movies. They did Cherry most recently. Cherry was a bank heist movie that was made here in 2019 that is on Apple TV right now. And they started out with Welcome to Collinwood back 20 years ago.
So they try
Oh,
to
yeah,
get the
they do.
movies here, but
They
again,
do.
it has to do with the money rules, doesn't
Right.
it?
The money, yeah, exactly. The tax incentive drives this. So when we run out of tax incentive, so a $100 million Netflix movie is filming here right now, but that ends at the end of October and they're out of tax incentive. So we're
But
waiting till the next round.
wouldn't it be a good thing if corporations and organizations donate money for this stuff? Do they do that, or if they donate it to the state, say, listen, somebody has $1 million, they want to give it away? Is it a 501c3?
Well,
You're
the
already-
film commission is, yes.
Yeah. So somebody could donate a couple $1 million to that.
we would welcome that, yes.
Yeah.
So what we do is advocacy. We lobby. We go out to LA. We talk to studios. I'm going out to LA the beginning of November to talk to my contacts out there to generate business, to generate influx of productions to come here and film here.
I'm sure through the years you've made contact with lots of the Hollywood
Yeah, and
people.
as we move up, and as I've worked 26 years, so a lot of my previous bosses are now higher up. A lot of them are studio executives now. So I have, luckily, I have some contacts I can tap to generate business.
Gosh, Bill, it's great that you came to Cleveland, and I know you're going to do an incredible job.
Yeah, there's a lot of work to do, but we're ready to do it and we're hitting the ground running.
You're up for it. Okay, let's wrap this up.